Good afternoon and welcome to today's DeepSense Discovery session. We're with Cheolsoon Im and he's a student at NSCC. He joined us this summer for a data readiness project. And we will get into that a little bit more, but he'll talk a lot actually about his experience as a data readiness project. One of the things that we're super excited about though is that he can share a very valuable and applicable experience of what it's like to work with a new company. He was working in the ocean sector, but really lessons learned are transferable across any type of sector, any kind of organization. And also it's all about the data questions he had to ask, but it applies very much to any kind of IT internship, any type of IT co-op placement. So looking very much forward to hearing some of the things he has to say.
So, all right, thank you so much for your time. I know most of you are very busy. Those who are interested in this kind of presentation are usually very busy. So I really appreciate your time. I will try to do my best for you. Today I'm wearing a blue t-shirt, which is the color of the ocean. I'm also considering to dye my hair blue, but I figured that's gonna be too much. So maybe next time. All right, so without further ado, let me get started. So I'm going to talk about my work at the DeepSense Readiness project. This has been a great experience for me. Okay, so today I'm going to talk about mainly four things. Firstly, about myself, the program I'm taking, the skills, especially those are used in this project, and also I'm going to go ahead and talk about the project itself. Basically, I implemented a database for metagenomic analysis for biologists. And I'm gonna talk about outcomes of this project. And I'm gonna concluding this presentation talking about learning oceans and before and after this experience. Moving on, let me introduce about myself. I have been just a huge fan of data. I like to be surrounded by data. One of the favorite quotes about data is that in God we trust, everyone else bring me data. So and I have a statistics and engineering background. And also I have a strong passion for data. So this naturally leads to my studying at NSCC IT data analytics. I have been learning a lot of good things from my teachers. And in addition to coursework and NSCC, I have done two projects before this DeepSense project. Well, first one was with the NRC, National Research Council Canada. It was a transportation project. I used multi-layer perceptron to find the most profitable route between 2 points. So I think, if I'm not mistaken, the accuracy was 94%. So was not bad. Was not bad. And the second project was anti-human trafficking intelligence initiative project. Basically, I was using business intelligence to track down the bad guy based on their location data. It was a pretty interesting project for me. Currently, I'm volunteering for as a technology team lead for the IT job fair. For that, I'm just comparing virtual IT job fair platforms. Okay, skills. Among many skills, I'm going to focus on the skills that I used for this specific project. So first one is database design and implementation. I used MySQL, was one of the most popular database management system, RDBMS system. So it was quite efficient. And also for the web front, I used the Django framework. It was very efficient. So if you have a high standard and tight deadline, Django framework can be your good friend. Next, my favorite programming language is Python. I strongly believe that Python is a forerunner in terms of machine learning. So if you're about to start your journey for the machine learning, I strongly recommend you can start with Python. So easy to learn, very good community support. There are a lot of other alternatives too, but Python will never disappoint you. And for the IDE, my favorite IDE is VS Code and Jupyter Notebook. There are some disadvantages and advantages in the IDE. So if you combine, even for this specific project, I use both VS Code and Jupyter Notebook for different purposes. So if you can combine these two, you will be in a pretty good shape. And one of the interesting thing about this project is I need to connect from VS Code. I connected to the remote server. My son is working background. Please understand. Yeah. And okay. So let me repeat. From VS Code, I need to connect to the remote server from one of the Dalhousie biology lab using secure shell. Which was a pretty good experience too. Okay, enough about myself. Moving on. Let me talk about project milestones for this project. So it starts in the early June all the way to the late August. So first phase is for requirement finding. I don't have, so to be honest, I don't have a lot of knowledge about ocean sector, even for the Django framework. So, therefore, I got a lot of learning to do. So I got a lot of good briefing from my supervisor about metagenomic analysis. And I studied about biology and metagenomics, starting from Khan Academy, all the way to the John Hopkins, the courses from John Hopkins University in Coursera. So I did a lot of studying, and it was quite a good experience for me. Moving on, let me talk about the data cleaning. As you can imagine, in the real world out there, most of the cases, the data cleaning is a big part, because most of the data is not clean at all. So I used Python and the pandas library for the data cleaning. It's really powerful, very efficient. And for the data cleaning, I strongly recommend to you to use using Jupyter Notebook. Moving on, after my data cleaning is done, I implemented a searchable database. Okay, so before data cleaning, I was provided with 930 text files from my supervisor. So after I combined all of this and cleaned and combined and merged and all of this, I uploaded those data to the MySQL database. And for the front end, I used the Django framework. And I also added a performance monitoring tool. I want to see how my database work, how fast or how efficient. Moving on to the last stage, I let my users use my database, and I get some feedback from them. I reflected on it, and I reflected those feedback and make improvements to my database. And I also suggested future direction for the project, because they made it very clear that this system will not go away even after I'm gone. They say that they are gonna keep improving, keep developing this database. So I suggested some future direction, which I will elaborate on in the later slides. Okay. All right, for the data cleaning, let's take a little deeper dive on the data cleaning. Okay, for any project regarding data, if you like I said, data you will not get, most probably you will not get data set in the form of you desire. Okay, so I basically performed the 7 steps to the data to get the data in a format that I desire. Okay, so first step is I get rid of the unnecessary characters. So removing special characters with a few exceptions. Okay. So for that, yeah, I need to take a close look at too. Okay. Second step was I converted TSV to CSV because I figured that there are more support for CSV, and CSV files are easier, at least for me, to handle. And third stage was extraction. I took some substring from the title of each file and feed them into the content of the file. I did this for all those 930 files. And let me talk about exceptional cases. When you have a really big data, it behaves quite differently as opposed to when you just have a small size data. So I had to take care of those exceptional cases. And moving on to the next step, I did another extraction for each of the files. And stage 6, I merged all the files while removing the headers. And I also make sure that for the final checking, I also made sure that the various data, all the data is in there. So I have more than 1.7 million records in my data set. So I made sure that every record is in there. And also they have right data type. Because in RDBMS, they usually did quite tight and strict type checking. So if you don't have right data type, it will complain and give you a lot of warnings and errors. Okay. All right. Enough for the data cleaning. Okay. Let me move on to the actual user interface. Okay. All right, so this is a screenshot of metagenomics dashboard. So let me go over quickly. So you can see here that each record, there are 13 attributes in the database. So for the first screen, I made it so that you can only see the 4 important attributes, which are gene colocyte, co-assembly, and contig. For this database, if you combine these attributes, you can get a composite key. Okay, composite key meaning it can uniquely identify each record. Okay, and you can import new records. You can export. Like I said, for the import function, you should have if you import from here. You should have a right data type, otherwise they will complain, okay? And since we have a lot of data sets, you can see from here, we have more than 1.7 million records here. So I added some filter function here. So for example, if you click on BB16 co-assembly, it will only show those data which belongs to BB16, okay? So I have filters for every attribute here, okay? So like I said, if you click these blue cells, you can get in there and see can check all the attributes in the database, okay? And you can make changes in here. You can save it, all right? All right, moving on. User management. In addition to the many functionalities in this database, I added a function to handle users. So I currently logged in as a co-op student 1, okay? So he or she can do anything. So this means he or she is super user. He can add data, make changes. Of course, he or she can view the data. But for example, for this test user, he can only see the data. He cannot make changes to the data. So you can manage various users. So because one of the reasons that I built this is that this database will be used by many biologists, and you want to be able to give each of them different privileges if need be. All right, moving on. performance management. Lastly, I added a performance management tool to the database. So whenever you query something over here, it will give you how long it took for the whole transaction or just for the SQL. If you click on SQL, it will show actual SQL commands under the hood. Okay, I'm not sure I will have the time to actually demo the system, but if you click on SQL, you will actually see you can actually see the SQL code. All right. Yep. So what have I learned from this great experience? This picture is the Bedford Basin, which is very close to Halifax downtown. So I was amazed by the scale and availability of data in this field. So a lot of data is out there to be analyzed by us. And also the powerful analytical tool is available to us. And the DeepSense has done a very good job combining those two and generating huge opportunity for us. So yep. And one other thing I would like to recommend is that check the YouTube channel of DeepSense. You can see the previous DeepSense sessions from there, and you will get a lot of good information. Okay. All right. So after the co-op is done, I was honored to be suggested to work more. So I'm currently working on the new data set. This time, this data set requires a little more sophisticated database design. So I'm using a visual paradigm to come up with entity relationship diagram. This is one of the screenshots. And I'm also using pandas library to clean up the data and merge data. And I think I'm almost done. As long as I'm done, I'm gonna also upload this data set to the searchable database. Okay. And for the after that, like I mentioned, I suggested the future direction. I suggested two things. That one thing, or first one is to use NoSQL, and another thing is use cloud computing. Okay, so Google Cloud Firestore can be a great option. I have used a little bit, and the speed was really good. I'm not saying NoSQL is always better than RDBMS. I'm just saying if you know when to use which one, you will get a lot of benefits. Okay. All right. Yep, that's it. That's it. So if you have any questions, Jennifer LaPlante or me will be very happy to answer. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That was fantastic. And I'll wait and see what kind of questions we have that come in. If you stop sharing for 1 second, then you might be able to, okay, there. So on the very bottom of our screen, we'll see if there's some questions, but I have a couple questions for you. Sure. And I just had them and then I just closed my email. Where did they go? Okay, so I'll have to look them back up. But one of the questions I did have was around companies. And if a company was working with a student like you, what kind of recommendations would you have? What would have made, or maybe what did they do well, maybe, and what are things you wish they could have done, or what's advice you'd give to a company?
Yeah, thank you for the question. I had basically no complaints about the company side, but one thing I want to mention is that if they can document their requirement or their status in terms of what kind of data they have, what is their ultimate goal. If they can make it clear upfront to the students will be able to figure out what they need to do in the earlier stages. That will be really good. Yep.
And you're part of the Study and Stay program. And so as an international student, Are there things that you can give some advice to as well as you're starting to work in Canada and some of your experiences with any other workplaces that you might have worked? Is there something you can share?
Well, uh, basically, there can be some cultural differences, but I think in a fundamental way, humans are all the same. You know, if you try to be nice, if you try to be kind, and if you are willing to go extra miles, they will understand you. They will like you. I mean, they will, and especially in Nova Scotia, most people I met are very kind. Not only in this project, but also in outside the project. So you will have no problem adjusting to it, I believe.
Great. And so we have a couple questions, so I'll read them out to you. What sort of backup did you implement for the original data set this summer that you implemented with the Django, I can't pronounce that, and MySQL or SQL? We can have the debate about which it is. If, say, a super user was to make a super big mistake. So yes, what kind of backups did you make to address any of those risks of super users?
Yeah, but yeah, I already made several. Correct me if I'm mistaken. I always made a lot of backup copies myself, because you never know what you're stepping into. I mean, you can make a mistake. So I usually have a backup copies locally on premise and in the server. But even in the server, I maintained various copies. I even tried to use GitHub for version control, but to be honest, GitHub doesn't really work well for me because this data is huge, you know. But yeah, GitHub will be really helpful if you can handle it well. Yep. So let me know if I didn't answer your question.
And I guess, I mean, it's like any kind of organization where you have data and you have a super user, there's always a risk that a super user is going to make a super big mistake, as they said.
Yeah.
Okay, so Asal has one question. She's wondering whether you consider using Elasticstack. The Elasticsearch engine comes with a really strong search feature, especially for text queries. And XPack comes with the security feature and other things that you mentioned about different people accessing the interface. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah, I think I have some experience, but to be honest, I don't have a lot of experience of it. I'll be happy to dig in, but yeah, I don't have much knowledge about it. So, but in principle, it sounds a very good option to me. Yep.
Sounds good. It's always nice too when we can collaborate and share advice.
Yeah,
I think
sure.
that's one big thing actually that I want to touch on. And one of the questions that I had written out for you was around the summer internship and the summer program that we ran. And one of the things that you did that really stood out of all the students that we had working with us was you really tried to get a community together, setting up a Slack channel, trying to encourage people to participate in our monthly sessions where we're all online. Can you talk a little about what you see as a benefit from networking and some of the steps that you've taken that maybe you can give some advice to other students for them to build relationships?
Sure, yeah. I mean, I cannot stress enough the importance of networking, because specifically in this field, everything is changing really quickly. You cannot know everything. I mean, you cannot do everything. So always try to reach out and make sure that the relationship is reciprocal. I mean, if you try to help, if you try to meet others' needs, they will come back and try to help you too. So it's really important. Yep. And from this experience, I had I owed a huge amount of support from my mentor, my supervisor, other co-op students. I mean, this also I don't want to forget the NSCC teachers. So without their support, this will not be possible at all. So I mean, the importance of networking is really critical. Yep.
That's great. And in terms of that internship, so if there's students who are about to go seek out and build out relationships while they're seeking out an internship or some kind of placement or co-op position, are there things that you would do today that you didn't do last time? So is there something you would, if you had to go find a new internship?
Yeah. So are you assuming that they already got the position or they're looking for it?
They're looking for it.
They're looking for it. Okay. So they're looking for it. All right. I'm gonna. There are many things you can do. Make sure your LinkedIn profile is up to date. Show what you can do, and you don't just wait until the opportunity comes. You just prepare. You can, or for example, you can start your own project. You can. So I know the co-op is very hard to get. So you can start volunteering. You can start unpaid work time. So there are a lot of things you can do. So if you can, and also if you want to reach me, if you reach me, I'll be available to answer in terms of finding a position. Yep.
That's great advice. And I think one thing, you know, you talked about a blue shirt and dyeing your hair blue, which would have been amazing to see. But yes, that's a big commitment. Can you tell a little bit about what you learned about the ocean sector? So I think, yeah, when you started, you didn't know a lot. And can you share a little about what your experience has been and maybe what the future holds?
Yeah. Like I said, it was a lot of data is just available. I mean, was amazing to see the amount of data, the variety of data is there, like to be analyzed. So I mean, it almost seems like they are screaming at us, you know, analyze me, you know, get insight from me, you know. So especially in this area of Halifax, we are blessed with this proximity to ocean, you know. We can see ocean every day, you know, like you know. So a really big potential is there, and this time, especially right now, the 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 expansion of application of the tool, the power of tool just increasing. So I think there are really this area, this ocean sector has great potential, and we need people, we need talent to analyze and to grab this opportunity.
I think I might have to take that clip and use that clip for promotional materials for Atlanta, Canada and students. I think Bill at NSCC is going to say, all right, this is exactly the story we want other students to hear. I have one other question too that came in that's asking if you can give some advice to make sure that students kind of keep on track and complete their project without delays. And so I think there's one thing that you talked about too, about, you know, making sure you had clear objectives and knew what you were doing. Another thing that I think we found at DeepSense, where we work with students and we work with industry partners, is sometimes students work on different timelines than industry does. So can you share a little about what you might have learned and what recommendations you give for students to make sure they really complete that project on time?
Yeah, sure. One thing I did was do not wait until the last moment. If finish as early as possible if you have time. There's no reason to wait until the deadline. So finish early, then you will have time to check other things. So, and another thing is that you can work concurrently on several things. So because at the end of the day, you will never know which solution works best. So if you have several options, then if some of the options doesn't work, you can always have backup. And another thing I want to stress is that don't take co-op lightly. I mean, never think like I always get I'm gonna always get the same money anyway. Don't do that. I mean, the more you give, the more learn from this experience. So ready to go extra mile. Give the best you can, then you will learn a lot of things.
Amazing. And we're going to go back to data for a second. So the person says, I apologize for the general nature of this question. Never apologize for amazing questions or good questions or questions in general. But you mentioned earlier that big data behaves differently. Would it be possible to elaborate slightly on what you mean by that in the context of your work plan for this project?
Yeah, very good question. For example, I mentioned that I have 930 text files at the early stage of my project. I ran the same function on each file. It works fine. But as the number of files increasing, it gives me it starts to miss some records. I couldn't find out why. I couldn't figure out why it does that. Maybe there are some bugs in the pandas, I dare say, but I don't know. But I had to deal with it. So I had to dig in and get or collect all of those exception cases and run them again, and it works fine. So I still want to find out, and you can join me yeah, to find out. But and another thing is that if you have really big data, some tools you can use when you have a small data, they are just unavailable. For example, Excel. Excel is a great tool, but in this size of data, Excel becomes useless. I mean, you cannot even open it. So, yep, I hope that answers your question.
I think hopefully it does. We'll see in the comments if there's any other questions. But I think it's one of the things that I love is that Excel still remains, but when you have that many files, and I think can you were there any challenges you had in and this is a plug for next week's discovery session where Jason Newport, who's on our team, is our data manager, and he's going to talk about data management practices. I mean, I can only imagine. I hope that the files were named in a similar way and had similar file conventions, because I can only imagine the challenges that you might have faced. I'm just looking at the other questions here. Can DeepSense make a big data storage cloud available? Oh, so you know what? That's a great question, Bill. So this is there's a couple of different areas where you have big data storage available, and it's more that it's big data, but it's specific data. So there's an organization called CIOS, which is Canadian Integrated Ocean Observation System, CIOOS, and there's OOSs all over the world, and Canada's just established theirs. You will find an insane amount of data that's available in there about various things. And so the big thing is, what's the actual purpose, or what are you going to solve? So just because you have data doesn't mean you can come up with some kind of solution. You have to know the challenge. But there's other initiatives that are happening to try to bring more ocean data readily available. Of course, you run into a problem. Maybe you want to know information about a location, and then the data that's available is only available from 10 kilometers away, and it won't be suitable. So this is the issue that we have with data. But DeepSense, we don't store data. We store data for short-term projects. But there are lots of other publicly available sources, and there's lots of groups working towards making more data available. And that could be a future talk as well if you're interested. In terms of the next question, are there more projects and organizations like Cove that are waiting for a resource to become available? And I don't know, should schools be carrying out joint projects? I think there's lots of opportunity for us to carry out lots of projects. So DeepSense, we were fortunate. The summer program we did was to address COVID, and we were able to work with 15 students from all sorts of institutions and different companies to try to solve data problems. And Cheolsoon looked at a fascinating one. It was all about getting data ready. So we didn't necessarily need to be training a machine learning model. It was the preparedness. We hope to continue to work on some of those types of projects. And I think that's where there's relationships with Cove, the Center for Ocean Venture, with other funders, and trying to find relationships of where companies can benefit. Because I think for students, it's a big hurdle for a company. So sometimes if they don't have domain expertise on a computer science standpoint, having someone walk in is tricky. Cheolsoon was fortunate that some of the people in that organization he was working with have computer science backgrounds, they understand. If you walk into, I use the example often of a company who makes a widget and has a lot of engineers who make sensors. And if they don't understand data specifically, it's really hard for them sometimes to understand the potential of their data. I'm just looking to see if there's anything else. Any other questions? Oh, here's one question for you. What does it make you feel like to be able to answer challenges in the workplace from the experiences you've had in learning?
I'm sorry.
It's a tricky one. What does it make you feel, or how do you feel knowing that you can answer challenges in the workplace from the experiences you've had in learning? So thinking about what you've done at NSCC and how you can answer that and use that learning when you're working.
Oh, how can I how can I make use of my learning to work experience? Is it okay? Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. I like I said, uh, I would be more positive when I start a new work, because this has been a great achievement for me, and I already I also know that this wouldn't be possible with supports, but I will have a lot of support from DeepSense network and NSCC. So I would be more positive when whatever I'm gonna do next.
That's great. And here's an interesting question for you, given your recognition and desire and aptitude to network. Should your schoolwork become a little more flexible with arbitrary deadlines, like the start and finish of a semester, so that you're given more opportunity to do integrated workplace learning?
Wow, that's a tricky question. Yeah, but I think we need to balance, because it's great to have some flexibility, but I realize that NSCC is trying very hard to cover every base. Teachers are so eager to make us learn a lot. So if you want to learn a lot of technology in a short period of time, they have to give you a tough schedule. I mean, that you cannot get away with it, but you will appreciate it when you're done with it. So we need to find a balance, I think.
That's very true. And you know what? I'm somebody who works really well in a deadline, and I would wait until the last week, which is terrible. So then I'd be scrambling. So people like me would not do well in that environment, or they'd be amazing. They'd just be really rushed, and I wouldn't sleep. Probably not. Are there any other questions that anyone has? I'm just looking through to make sure I didn't miss anything. There's no live Q&As that are coming in, and any other comments that anyone has? Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. And I can guarantee there are a lot of students who are going to benefit from what you have shared. And I think the biggest thank you is you chose NSCC, you've chosen Nova Scotia, you've explored and chosen the ocean sector. So thank you very much for working with us this summer and supporting a company and helping them really advance. And then I think the biggest thing is sharing it with your fellow classmates and students and other students who are going to learn from you. We're very fortunate. So thanks.
Thank you so much. I mean, I cannot thank you enough. Thank you so much. And thank you for everyone too. Yep.
Excellent. And so next week we will have a talk too about data management. So I'm sure everyone will also want to join that one as well. So thanks, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.